can start whenever.
Yeah, we could just talk a bunch of shit all the time.
Yeah, that's all we do.
Yeah.
But I do think, maybe introduce yourself, tell people where you are today, and then we'll kind of talk about how you started. I mean, I started in real estate too. I follow you. I pretty much follow all the real estate guys out there, try to learn from anybody I can. It definitely is a wealth creation tool and huge tax advantage. And I've used it my whole life. So it's benefited me. And so I try to talk about it as much as I can and bring people on that have definitely really done deals and really buy buildings and really do multifamily, so we can get the right advice out to people and they don't get some wrong, advice.
There's a lot of bad information out there.
People repeating information, then they really haven't done deals or done the work. And so, when I meet guys that have really done it, I try to bring them on. That way they can really explain to people, how it works and maybe give them some inspiration to maybe go out there and get their first deal. So maybe just tell people, where you're at today or what you do today and what you mainly invest in.
So Mark here, and I am so blessed to be here in your living room. I mean, sitting in your living room, okay?
You are.
Because this is a much more intimate setting than most podcast studios, where you're in a podcast studio and there's people all over the place and it's super comfortable. Just came into Houston, and thank you for picking us up at the airport. And I've been in the multifamily space for 41 years. I bought my first deal when I was 23, going into my junior year in college. My mother was my broker. She was a commercial broker. Both my grandfathers were real estate developers. And so I kind of grew up in the business a little bit, but I never really knew that's the business that we're in, because my dad was a dentist. Two of his brothers were dentists. His oldest brother was a lawyer, then became a judge. So
they want you to be a dentist?
My father, that was the hardest conversation I ever had.
I know.
Telling my father I did not want to be a dentist. And I was scared to, because I worshiped my dad. And he was such a good guy. And he had the whole thing planned out. You're going to go to University of Maryland. You're going to go to dental school there, where I went. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. We're going to open up an office. We're going to expand my office, okay? Maybe you'll be a specialist. You're good with your hands. And I didn't have the heart to, and I would listen to him telling me this. I told my mother, I said, Mom, I'm getting ready to go to college. I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to put my hands in people's mouths. She's like, well, just tell your dad. And I was like sick over it.
Easier said than done. Yeah.
I was sick over it. And then I told him, he's like, oh, that's cool. What do you want to do?
So you built all this up.
I'm like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I want to study business. He goes, okay.
So you built all that up in your head and it wasn't a big deal at all. I probably would have done the same thing.
Today's society is different. Kids are different today. So we worshiped our parents. We were afraid of our parents. Today, they're different. Today's kids walk around on their phone like zombies. And I get so pissed when I'm at the mall and they walk into you. I'm like, what are you doing? Why can't you just put your phone down and be present in this moment? So you asked me what we do. So we've been doing multifamily. We grew a portfolio. We've done well over 25,000 units. And people always ask me, what's your transactional number? It's over $5 billion, but we never really say that because people think, it's a big number.
Is the business model to try to hold most of them, or do you just sell?
So the biggest mistake that I made was selling. Biggest mistake. So we sold a big portion of our portfolio in 97. So you're still young then, 97, to a public company. And in 99, we thought, okay, we're going to take a lot of this capital and create our own fund. So we created the family office, and we were going to be the equity for different developers. We picked 4 developers on 4 different deals, all new construction, multifamily, and within the first 24 months of building the deals, they fucked them up. So I had to cram them down and then get them to walk away. We gave them some exit money and still have relationships with each of them today. And they're successful now, but they just weren't doing it within our business model, our box. So I said, okay, we're going to go back and then start to leverage up. And then we started to buy a portfolio, and we built ourselves up to 15,000 units. We bought a nice sized portfolio here, 2004, end of 2004, 6,000 units portfolio, 16 different assets all over the state.
But you're buying mainly from the bank or distress.
This deal,
yeah.
the guy was going into the shitter. He was going bankrupt. He asked us to come in and fund his bankruptcy plan. So we bought his 3 operating companies. And then I had to go, 3 of his deals were with JP Morgan Chase. So I had to go buy the debt. And we actually partnered with a fund called Contrarian. And they partnered alongside of us dollar for dollar. And we bought out the debt on those 3. And then we took 2 of the 16 and we gave them back to the lender because we didn't want to keep them. We ended up making money from all the deals. We sold one to Houston Community College because it abutted the school. And that deal actually netted us 50% of the equity that we had in the whole portfolio. It was a small deal. It was 291 units, but it was perfect for them, and they wanted to redevelop it. And, universities are stupid. And they just said, what's your price? And we said, what would you like to pay us? Because, the first person that tells you the number is the person who loses.
They do overpay for things. I have a story.
They overpaid tremendously. They had no idea what our basis was. And we did really well. I do feel bad because our seller, he was a nice man. And I became friendly with him and his wife. He had a stroke from the stress after this. And we actually had a mini stroke before.
From the bankruptcy.
Yeah. So we had a mini stroke before, and we're getting ready to close the deal year end. And I get a call that he had a stroke. His name was Don. So I fly out here. I go to the hospital. I'm sitting by his bed. And he hadn't awarded the deal. And he had myself, and he had a guy named Alan Gross. He owns GFI. It's a pretty big company out of Manhattan. And I sat there with him, and he could speak. He was okay. And we just talked. And he said, you know what? You came out here and sat with me. You didn't even talk to me about the deal, You came here, you brought my wife flowers. We're going to do the deal with you.
What was the main reason that put him in bankruptcy? Was he just over leveraged, or, I think sometimes people can learn because, it happens to a lot of people, and it's happened to some really, really smart people I know. I think whenever you're an entrepreneur, you're always trying to do bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes
Classic.
Yeah. It just is what it is. It's like that. That's how everybody I know their mindset is. And so sometimes I know guys that personally that have lost $50 million and made it back. And so, later in their life.
50 million, that's not a lot to lose.
Yeah.
I've lost more than that.
But got all the way down to bankruptcy and started over again. Yeah. So do you happen
to have your definition and I have my
Yeah.
definition.
It's all relative.
So, we didn't have a good year. A great year. We're making $40-50 million on some of our new products. So that's a great year. Or we've bought a number of units, we've compressed the created value, and then we've refinanced them, and then you can't even put the money into something. It's sometimes it gets hard.
That's why I could never raise money from people, because I don't think I would have enough deals to put good deals to put the money into to actually utilize everybody's money. I can find them myself, 2 to 3 really, really good ones a year, in my area. I guess I could go outside of Texas, but we've always made money doing that. And so that's what always scared me about raising money. I don't think I could put it to work enough to give everybody the same return on every deal.
When I was 31, I came here in 1991 in downtown Houston, the RTC office, which is, do you know what that was? That was the Resolution Trust, which was the organization that took over all the S&Ls. So the savings and loans failed. They created the resolution trust, and that's how they dispose of the assets. We went to the office in downtown Houston, and I bought my first deal in Baytown.
I know exactly.
Baytown.
I had rent houses there. Yeah.
And I got big ass balls, and I thought my shit doesn't stink, and I can do anything, right? So we buy this deal. It's called Baytown Homes. It was condemned. We bought it it was 152 units, and we bought it for $1. And they gave me financing of the full rehab. That's how the RTC did it. They would finance 100% of the acquisition and 100% of the rehab.
Did you have assets at this point? I mean,
Yeah,
what
I had
were
a
they?
lot of
Okay,
assets.
so
Yeah.
they're
I graduated college. I had 58 units when I graduated college.
so when you did this deal, that's probably part of the reason they did that type of loan, right? Is because
We
you
did
did it.
6 deals the first day I walked into the office there.
But it's because you had the financial capability to do it, though. You know, even though they gave you no financing.
Yep. Yeah, at that point, we had about 4,000 units.
Okay.
And we had done some NewCo, and we had done some conversions. And we had a nice sized balance sheet for a wise ass 31-year-old, and came out here and really started to leverage up. I love this state. I made a ton of money here in this state.
Texas has been strong for a long time.
Yeah, and it will remain strong because it's really like Florida. It's a business progressive thought state. And people just don't really understand that when you're in a state that's red, people are trying to figure out how to do deals versus how to stop deals.
Yep.
So got into that space
which
and just grew it massively.
Is kind of counterproductive of what they want to happen. Everything gets more expensive. There's too much red tape. Rent prices are higher in a different state that doesn't allow what they allow in Texas and Florida. And so, the way they do it does keep costs down.
Yeah. So what was your first deal?
My first deal was a single family house. I was 18 years old and
Nice.
saved up money living at my parents' house. And all I had was a car note and a cell phone bill. Again, I didn't know anything about what a mortgage was. But I was a sales guy at a fitness center and made, I don't know, at the time, $9 an hour plus commission. So I had a little bit of income. So I bought the house, I moved into it, and then had a first time home buyers program. So I put down a couple grand maybe. I don't remember. They might have paid for some of the closing.
FHA.
Yeah, they might have paid for some.
Still exists today.
And I think the seller paid for some of the closing costs. So I probably, came to the table with, I think it was a couple grand. Then I had 16,000 left over, but I was like, I can pay the mortgage with my income from my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I paid the mortgage every month through that. But I remodeled the house myself, almost all of it. The electrical is the only thing I didn't do. And it didn't need much electrical. I mean, we just replaced the fixtures and stuff, but the only thing I wasn't comfortable doing, but I did everything else. And then I hired a tile guy in the beginning to lay the tile, but then I helped him the whole time. So by the time we laid the living room and the kitchen, I could do the rest of the house. And so I remodeled that house, ended up selling it and making a little over 30,000. So I got my money back.
Nice.
Had the 30,000 and then went and did the same thing. And this is the deal after that was the no doc days, but before 2008. So I was able to
ninjas.
Yeah.
Ninjas, piggybacks.
Literally, they called it no doc because you didn't need anything. You put 5% down, and they don't need anything. No documentation, no income verification.
Yep.
I don't even know. I might have given my driver's license, maybe. I don't even know if I
They
did.
probably went through social.
I don't even remember. But you don't have to give. Yeah, I think it was to get the loan. But it was 5% down, no matter how much money you made. And so it actually benefited me because I bought all the stuff I could afford, and I started flipping houses, and that's how I started making money.
I love it.
Yeah. And then that's how I got money to start, our first businesses and then invest into buy and hold long-term stuff. So I'd continue to flip houses, but then I started trying to buy single family only because that's the market I knew, and just kept holding properties, would take the cash from flipping, try to get more buy and holds. But I did start buying buildings early on. I just didn't buy them as quick as I bought the single family. So, we still own some of the buildings I bought in my early 20s that are paid for. They're all next to the refineries and the chemical plants. We have great tenants that have long-term contracts. I mean, it's been a really good space for us in Texas because you have the ports, you have the chemical plants and refineries that are usually AAA companies, Marathon and Exxon and Shell. And
Yeah.
so usually your tenants are pretty good tenants that have, you know, longer term contracts with these guys. And so we continue to do that over time. And that's kind of how I got into the real estate game. And so I continue to do it over the last, you know, 23 years. Just kept investing, taking money from businesses we buy, trying to, you know, bring down my taxable income. And so the commercial deals are really the only way to do that. And so that's what I really started getting the cost seg stuff. And
So you know that with our new amazing president that's coming into office, he's going to repeal the Biden tax numbers, and it's going to be bonus depreciation. So it's going to be 100% depreciation on an accelerated basis. So on your cost seg, you're going to be able to get 70 to 75 cents on the dollar for every dollar you put into a deal.
no way.
Yeah. It's just like buying a G-Wagon. You write the whole thing off.
Yeah.
It's just it's so stupid.
But it's
and I
against
don't understand why people don't read the tax law.
But it's against your active income. So if people don't understand, if you make $100,000, you know, that year,
Yep.
you can go and buy a real estate property that you have equity in,
Yeah.
and not pay any tax, zero.
Zero.
Or, you know, the
Zero.
100,000 is just a you know, fictitious number, but it can work for any amount of money. And so that's what we try to do now. We try to buy big enough deals, you know, that still make sense, and I still have cash flow, and I can still create equity, but still get the depreciation. And so that's what we try to do now. What do you usually get on a multifamily, like percentage wise? If it's a $10 million building, is there like some number that kind of usually works for multifamily?
Yeah. So our standard profile is we don't buy 200 units or less, but because of this getting in the door with this bank, the remnants of the Silicon Valley Bank, we bought 106 units from them. And that deal was originally traded at 15 million, and we paid 8 for it. And it comes out of the blocks on a T3, so the trailing 90 days, it's an 11% cap day one on the deal. And as I was telling you before, they gave us a 5% rate,
That's
and
crazy.
they financed us for 60 months
Yeah.
and interest only. So, and then we have our second deal with them. And then now we're working on a 3-property portfolio with them. And that'll be about 800 units.
What does the cost seg numbers usually work out to on a typical multifamily?
It all depends.
Yeah,
It
that's
depends
what I
on
was
the age, the useful life of the asset. And it also depends on, we use 3 different cost seg companies. It depends on who they are and if they're local or they're regional. If they're local, they're more aggressive because they'll be able to challenge it in case it ever gets challenged. But we do with our cost seg, we use our accountants we get a tax opinion from them. So we get a second layer of insurance that makes sure that we're not going to get a clawback on the losses. So I don't know if you've ever done that.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, it's just more insurance. So you can never have too much insurance in life.
No, I don't think so. So, you know, I know you have a, you know, educational type piece. When people are out there and they don't even know how to get into real estate or don't know how to start with multifamily, how are some ways that they can actually get it with no money down, you know, like you talk about? Or how are some ways that you've got them with no money down besides, you know, with if someone had no assets and they're not walking into a deal with, you know, 4,000 doors and can go and prove it up, like how does somebody get something with no money down?
So typically in that space, what we're teaching and how this evolved was becoming involved in social media toward the end of April this year. We started posting, and I do a video at my friend's pool. Tanner didn't film it. Our producer, he's now our producer. His name is Christian. He filmed it and he edited it, and it was a video about Grant Cardone. And he said that you're nothing if you make $400,000 a year. And I got a little offended. So I kind of beat him up. And I'm driving back to Miami Beach, which is where I live, which was about a 45-minute drive from where we filmed, because I don't like to film at home. It's my private space.
Yep.
He calls me and he said, the video's doing great. I said, okay. He goes, it's going viral.
This is your first video?
My first video. I said, what does that mean? He goes, viral, I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, by the time, and this was Friday, so I turned my phone off at sundown, and then I turn it back on 24 hours later when Shabbat is over. He said, by the time you turn your phone back on for Shabbat, it'll do 1 million views. And I said, is that good? He goes, yeah, it's good. So, and that video went insane. And as we started to film, we started posting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Then he said, let's post 5 days a week. Then let's post 7 days a week. We started to film more. He said, can you write a course so you can teach people about real estate? I said, of course. So he's like, can you write other courses? I'm like, of course. Let me write these things down. So I got out a little notebook and I made courses. In seeing these other people on social media, I'm like, they're selling things for $50,000 or $100,000 that we're going to sell for $27 on our course because we want people to be able to own real estate.
Yeah.
Okay. And we will help them to get to another level. So that's what started this whole thing. And it's become a pretty insane following. I know we're over 500,000 followers on Instagram. I think we're close to 300 on TikTok. YouTube grows kind of slow, which we just started doing really like longer form content to give people more value.
Yep.
And we started teaching people. We loaded our school on June 20th was the first day that I actually had somebody. Her name is Lydia Walker. She's from Denton, Texas. And for 2 weeks, her and I are on a call for an hour on Tuesday and an hour on Thursday. And we're just talking about the Cowboys. I'm a Vikings fan, how she got through her life. Both of her parents, her father was incarcerated. Her mother was a drug addict. The father killed the mother. And then the mother committed suicide. And the life she had, and that she pushed her way, and she took her with a scholarship through college, and she went out and did roofing sales. And then she wants to be a real estate investor. And I said, if you want to be a real estate investor, she said, yeah, but you have to explain how we're going to do this to my boyfriend because we're going to split it. We're going to buy our first deal with our savings. So she calls me one day, and I give people my cell phone. She calls me one day. She goes, Mark, I got a wholesaler on the line, and I have this deal in Birmingham. I'm like, well, let's underwrite real quick. We underwrite it. We get him on the phone. I said to her, put me on the call with him. And I said to the guy, I said, look, she'll pay your price, but she needs 10 days due diligence. She has to walk the property. He goes, no, I got to close in 2 days. I'm like, okay. I'm like, Lydia, you're not buying this deal. So she said, what's next? I said, go to St. Louis, Missouri. Okay. She's like, why? I said, just go to St. Louis, Missouri. She finds the deal, puts it under contract, can't get it closed because they won't let her inspect.
Multifamily?
Single family.
Okay.
Single family.
Yep.
I always start the new investors with 1 to 4s.
Yeah.
So they can feel it. I want them to feel it.
Yeah. Understand construction.
Yes,
How
exactly.
to collect rents. Yeah.
She does this. She finds a deal, puts it under contract for $34,000, puts 35 into it, just appraised for 155. She put a HELOC on it, and then she bought her first home. She's now engaged, and she's buying a duplex, actually 2 duplexes in Lubbock.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And she's just one person within our community. I know I've done 34 deals since June 20th with these new investors. Students. And the progression is buy a couple deals, learn the business, go into multifamily.
Got it.
Okay? Because multifamily is scalable and sustainable.
I got up to 66 single family houses, and they were scattered all around Houston area. So Baytown actually had a handful in there.
Concentrated.
Yeah, and then I learned quickly that it was just too hard to scale. I had contractors run around all over town. I had house sitting where I didn't do rehabs for a couple months because I got them.
Did you have any Section 8 certificates?
Zero.
You couldn't see. You could. So we teach all these different concepts, but we teach it in layers. And I'll tell you, that book my mother gave me when I was going into my junior year was a book called Nothing Down by Robert G. Allen, who's the founder of Nothing Down. And I'm writing a book with him currently. He, Bob Kiyosaki, JT Fox, Daniel G. We're doing an event in Miami Beach in March of this coming year. And they're all going to be there. It's going to be 12 hours of training, 9 to 9 on a Sunday. We're just going to slam the doors shut and everybody's going to train. And Bob Allen his book changed my life because it gave me this idea that you didn't need money. You just needed to understand the person that was selling you the property and what their needs were. And today that book still works. And today that book is guys like this Pace Moby.
Yeah.
It's a knockoff of Bob Allen. They all copied him. It's so wholesaling is flipping, and subject to is creative financing. They all copied this guy. Okay.
Is your book that you're co-authoring, is that about no money down, or is it about just
It's about financial strategies. Absolutely. It's a dual book. So you'll read it one way and then you'll flip it over and you read it the other way. And it's also about getting out of your own way, getting out of your own prisons, whether it's you're lazy or you're overweight or you're a procrastinator, you're stuck in a prison of eating sweets or, starting things and never finishing them. All these different things that people suffer from. I'm using a bunch of different analogies through my religious teachings, through the Torah and so forth, and I'm pushing it on people.
I actually feel like that is pretty much the main problem. You can give people the information on the real estate, no money down, but they can't, get consistent enough or form a habit to actually do something long enough to actually make those deals work. They'll start, they'll stop, they won't be confident enough. And so I kind of talk about a lot about that too. And so you definitely got to create good habits. And the longer you do something, like if you went and looked at deals every single week, but you never bought anything, you'd be really confident in it. 6 months, 8 months. I mean, you'd really feel comfortable, and nobody does that.
It's process.
Yes.
It's all process driven. And that crazy analogy, real estate's location. It's not. It's execution. And how do you do that? You learn it from somebody that's done it, and they teach you how to not make the mistakes that you would normally do. And that's one of the things that I do with my students. I tell them, this is the box, this is it. It's a square peg in a square hole, and you do it this way. So when they call me and they say, I want to sign this all cash deal, and they won't give me a due diligence period, I'm like, tell them next.
Yeah.
Just like a bus. Next deal. Next. And I tell them, there's lots of deals. They're like buses. They come along every 5 minutes. With this book, with Bob, he is so close to me. My father's passed in 2005, and I'm really close to him. And he doesn't even realize how, incredible an influence he's had on me.
I feel like the right books do, especially if you're at that point in your life and you read something and you're like, okay, it just opens your mind up enough to think that you can really do it. It's like, well, he can do it. I can do it. That's how I always think about stuff, is like, I don't know. When I start anything, I have no clue, but I will execute, and everybody else will still be thinking about it. And then I'll learn every single week what to do, what not to do. And then I get confident, and then I'm good at it. So it's like, you just kind of got to go. I don't waste time with anything. Same thing with deals, and I'll just jump in, I'll figure it out. And as long as you don't make a big mistake, like you said, like if you learn from someone else, hey, just don't do this, this, and this, you'll probably be all right. And then you go and you really learn and you do something for yourself. And then that's how you get the confidence to go and do deal number 2, 3, 4, 5, 10.
I have this young kid, okay? He was in our program. He took a year off from college. And I want to go back to the habits, but I'll tell you about Raymond Gonzalez. He took a year off from college. He played professional soccer in the Mexican League. He's from Oklahoma. He comes back. He gets offered a scholarship at University of Oklahoma for either playing soccer or for computer science or academics. Over the summer, he joins, and I'm helping him. And he buys his first property. It's a little 2-1 for $25,000. His father is his investor, and they buy it, and he cleans it up, and he brings the value up. Not a lot. He put in like 5. He works at Lowe's, so he gets 50% off on his stuff. He brought it up to $52,000. So he buys it for a quarter. He puts 5 in, so he picks up 22 grand. Okay, he's a 19-year-old kid. He said, "I have another one. I want to buy this other one." He buys a 4-2. He does the same thing. Then he buys another 4-2. Okay. Now he's on his 5th deal. And he said, I'm not going to play soccer. I'm taking the academic scholarship. I'm going to keep my job. And I'm partnering with my older brother. And we're forming a company, a management company. And my dad's my investor. He's the most unassuming. He's shy. Okay. Super handsome kid, you know. If my 19-year-old didn't have a boyfriend, I would be like, hey, Ray's a good guy, you know. And so we got on this discussion because we started to talk, and why I thought of Ray was because he's a high-level athlete. And a hard thing to believe, I actually played football in high school all the way through Pop Warner, and I played 3 years in college. I was a Division II tailback. I'm 64, but I'm still fast. And then I was jacked. We took stuff to make ourselves bigger. It didn't make you faster. You already had the speed. You had to stay really stretched out. But my high school coach, his name was Frank Robinson Sr., and he said that actions become habits. I say it all the time. Habits become character, and character becomes destiny. And the destiny is whatever you want it to be. And I always say that to Ray. He always says his little sayings back to me. And he'll text me. He goes, I know you're super busy, but can we talk? I'm like, bro, you have my personal cell. Just call me, you know? And it's funny because I'm driving with my wife to see my family in Naples. So I'm cutting across Alligator Alley. And this is late July. And he has to decide whether he's going to play soccer or take the academic scholarship. And he calls me, and I said, where's your mom and dad? You got to put them on the phone. And Gabrielle and I are in the car, and I put him on the speaker, and we're talking. And I said to him, look, you have to do what you think is best for you. He goes, I really love doing the real estate. He goes, I don't want to play soccer anymore. It's not going to take me anywhere, okay? I played in the Mexican League. It's not a high-powered league, but I played and I was good, and I got offered the scholarship. But I have the other scholarship, and I'm doing so well. And I wanted to make sure it was okay with his mother and with his father. And they're like, we're so glad, because he's come out of his shell. He's grown. He's changed so much.
Confident.
And it happened in 90 days from the time he joined.
It happened from actually, but doing something that he started to become good at, because he did it, formed a habit, kept looking. I'm sure he looked at 100 deals and bought 5, and just kept being comfortable, getting more comfortable. And then all of a sudden he's confident. It's like,
and that, for me, is worth more than any plane or boat or car. It really is giving me, at this age, a real meaning in life. I found my passion teaching people.
I think that's why I got online too. Like, definitely don't need probably the bad that comes with it. But I think when you get to a certain point that it really does, like, you want to kind of pass on information, whether it's through a book or trying to help a bunch of people change their lives, right? I'm actually coaching just some friends of mine from high school that they're flipping a house, and they're going to do great. 2 girls, and they're just have the best work ethic, and they found this deal local, and they're like, hey, Shawn, what do you think of this deal? I was like, actually, it's a really good deal. That's a good house. And so I helped him get it closed. I found a lender for him that funded all of it. Mm-hmm. Actually, I had to fund it for a couple of days because the lender wasn't quite ready yet, but I got my money back in a couple of days. And then they're probably
you get a lot out of that, don't you?
Yeah, and it's like, it's fine. I knew the lender. I knew it was going to close. It wasn't like anything was going to happen. So he I got reimbursed 3-4 days later, but they got the deal. They're probably 3/4 of the way, but they're doing great, and it would be really awesome to see them make. And I think they'll do really well off the first house.
So what we have done is we've created a bunch of programs within the community. So we created a wholesaling program, and we've created an Airbnb.
Yep.
And we created a program where if my students don't have the down payment, I'm their investor.
Okay.
Because I can't get my money out in deals. And like you said, do 2, 3 deals. We've been on the sideline since COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just been on the sideline. We've been bidding on a lot of deals, but we get outbid. But we're just a straight up cash buyer. But
That's what I do. I make offers on stuff all the time that I don't get. So I don't think that's what people realize. Like, we do, 2, 3, 4 deals a year. I mean, probably max that we, buy and hold. We'll renovate, put a long-term tenant in it and hold it. But I mean, I make 30, 40 offers a year. I mean, people tell me no all the time, especially after COVID. The prices, they went up so much, even for Houston. I mean, it feels high. And I thought with the whole, the debt, all the commercial debt coming due, I thought I'd see a little bit more deals, but man, nothing really is. I mean,
have you looked at the Harris County foreclosure list?
I used to do that a long time ago.
Bro, it's like 40 pages.
Is it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay.
Every one of these guys is getting slammed. All these Indian syndicators, all of them. They've only been in the business 15 years. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They don't really have a bank. There's only one guy that's actually smart enough to go outside of Texas and buy to dollar cost average down, because that's how you would do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll say his name. I probably say it wrong. Swamp something. I forgot the name of his company. There was another guy, Apple's Way, Jay Gachiavelli. I know. I think he fled the country. There's another guy, Ash Shaw. Another, these guys don't know what they're doing. I mean, I see them when I go to the multifamily conference every year, and they're like, Mark, we got this deal. I'm like, guys, I don't do deals with you, okay? You're not who I do deals with.
It's hard to have partners a lot of times too.
I mean, if guys not capitalized, I mean, our partners here local, it's Ian Hancock. It's HM Equities, okay? I mean, if we wanted to syndicate deals, we'd syndicate it like that. But I don't want to be beholden to anyone.
That's what I never wanted.
I don't, so our portfolio is relatively small in our family office, but we're still a little over 8,100 units. But for me, that's small. And that's now, but this coming year in 2025, and I can see it with these first 2 deals and then this little portfolio, we'll do 5,000 units in 2025, maybe more.
But this is all bank-owned distress stuff that you're.
Yeah, why would I buy anything else?
I can't buy anything retail. Yeah.
So
even in the houses we've lived in, like this one, like I can't buy it retail. We buy and create the value. Like there's no, I can't just go buy a house and write a check for it. And then it's like, and it's retail, and then I have to pay property taxes and maintain the house. And it's like, I want to be able to make money if I did ever want to sell it one day, or, live for free at least. Mm-hmm. And so we've always kind of renovated and bought distressed, even the stuff we've lived in. And just because I had the single family background and have just done so many houses.
Was this deal distressed?
Yeah, it was vacant. So
nice.
There was a famous attorney named Racehorse Haynes as his nickname, that represented a ton of like really high profile stuff back in the 70s and 80s. Won a ton of cases. That's how he kind of blew up. He died in 2018. His estate sold the house off. A house flipper bought it, tore it apart, went bankrupt, so left it in that vacant condition. The guy that owns all the Jason's Delis owned it, and then COVID happened, and he's like, I have plans, but I don't even want to take on this project right now. So I bought it during, right in the middle of COVID, right when it first happened, where they were shutting everything down. Bought it from him, and then it took us about 2 years to renovate it. And we lived in the neighborhood. I mean, we were down the road anyways, but it worked out. We walked in with, a ton of equity, and of course got a little COVID bump too, because the prices just got so insane in the neighborhood. They've never been this high. And it's a lot of people moved here from all around the country.
What's the pricing per square foot in this market?
I've renovated a house and sold it about 3 months ago in the neighborhood, and I sold it for about $800 a foot.
Really? That's it?
Yeah. I guess relative to.
I'm sure you've been to Miami Beach.
Yes, relative to other cities, it is still fair.
We built a deal, and when we sold the deal, sold the units on the ocean, on Ocean Drive, we thought we were pushing the ticket. at 28 to about 3,300 a foot. The deal trades now for 4,500 a foot.
Is it commercial though?
No,
No.
it's condominiums. It's condominiums.
Yeah. So when I say that,
And single family is 2 to 3,000 a foot. But I'm talking about on the water, Miami Beach, sunset views. So
but $1,000 a foot's expensive here. I mean that's
Really?
pushing it. I mean that.
you get a big bang for your buck then.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I say it's expensive. I'm just used to, the pre-COVID prices where I mean, man, it was relatively really cheap to buy a house in a really nice neighborhood.
I came back yesterday from doing a couple errands, and I come in, and my wife and the 14-year-old Ziva and our help, they're unpacking the groceries. And I said, honey, did you get me the protein powder that I like? She goes, I couldn't find it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what's all this shit? She goes, it's groceries. I'm like, honey, we have like 6 of those over there. And she said, no, we don't. So I was betting her. Okay, I lost the bet. But she said, honey, are things going up? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, how much did you spend on groceries? She goes, $850. I said, okay. I mean, I guess we needed food. She's like, well, everything was 2 for 1. I'm like, well, that's why. I said, so she's like, I'm putting it in the pantry. And I'm like, when did it become so expensive? I didn't realize food was so expensive. When did this happen?
Post-COVID, I don't know. I don't really realize it either. But every once in a while, I buy something like, man, that's really expensive. Like $10.
I mean, you're probably like me. You probably don't look at your
I don't look at any
credit
price.
card
I don't
bills.
look at any
Probably
price
don't.
tag. Yeah, our assistant, runs through everything, make sure I don't have any charges that don't match. But I don't. That's
I
not
don't
how
even keep receipts. You don't.
it's not how I live my life. I try to make good investments, and then with only having debt on things that have or income producing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all the rest of the stuff, like it would drive me crazy to kind of try to save every $1.50 and save $1 here and $1 there on groceries, and I don't know.
It's
I
funny.
just try to make more money and invest well, and I don't really look at the price of a lot of stuff and try to save money.
With our portfolio, we buy everything bulk. So we buy our paint by the skid. So we buy it by the gross.
Yeah, I didn't
the
even
fibers,
think about that with that many.
whether it's flat or semi-gloss, everything's the same. Our flooring is the same.
In every single apartment building.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
Smart.
Everything's
Yeah.
unified.
Yeah,
Our
smart.
policy procedures are, it's a book. It doesn't really change. This is the hardware. Okay.
So
this
now
is what
when
our
you-
punch out list is.
When
This
you
is how
buy
we do
something
it.
out of state, is that how you're just like, here's the spreadsheet?
Everything so we buy from Glidden and Sherman.
Yep.
Okay. All our maintenance stuff all comes from Wilmar. All of our electrical comes from Granger. Okay. Everything is done on they get our policy procedure manual. When we buy a new property, everybody goes through an intake. They get fitted for uniforms. That's probably the most expensive thing, Cintas, because we want our flag on everything. And it's important for people to have unity. It's important for when you walk into a leasing center to offer somebody coffee or water and make them feel comfortable. Because for us, we don't have tenants, we have residents. We're creating community. So it's a different mentality than a lot of these guys that'll just buy an apartment deal. They call it apartment buildings. No, we have communities. We create a sense of community.
You also want less turnover.
Of course, and
you're gonna
turnover is
increase your
expensive.
margin. Yeah,
In a transient market, because Florida and Texas are transient markets, so you have to really underwrite them pretty heavy, and then you want to retain your resident because a turnover it's a finite cost, and you know what 1-1 costs or a studio or 2-1 or a 2-2 or a 3-2.
What when you're renovating, I'm sure you have it down to a science, but for somebody that's looking at a deal, what type of materials do they want to use in their apartment? That way, when you do have turnover, you're not having to go and spend a ton of money trying to redo it? Do you just use engineered wood or do you tile everywhere?
We used engineered wood.
Yeah.
It's easy because you can, if a plank gets burnt or damaged, you can just replace that section. We have been using quartz. We cut down, if in the older 80s buildings, the countertops are higher, we cut them down and we create an eating space. We always use subway tile. That's how we do it. Always matches. We want it bright. Our walls are white. Our floors are light gray. Our hardware is it's stainless steel, but it's polished. Okay, because it looks great when you first move in, when you walk in, or when you see the apartment. A lot of people use the non-polished because it just looks a little more durable. Everything has a ceiling fan. We do use cans a lot. Okay, so what we're trying to do is create as much value in the apartment space. Everybody thought that stainless steel was the number. It's black appliances.
Okay.
It's better.
They're also
We buy from Ferguson's. I mean, I don't even look at the bills, but when I used to actually look at them, and my CFO does, he goes through everything, and I look at each report for every asset, but I get a cover sheet, and the cover sheet is our variances. So if I notice there's a variance and there's an occupancy dip, I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to call the property directly. I'm going to ask the PM on site what's going on, why it's happening, and then I'll get a call from my asset manager. Why are you drilling them? I'm like, because I'm drilling them. Okay, what do you care? It's my money. Okay, you're a salaried employee, but all my people, they get paid on an incentive basis. So if a property performs X, we have a big pie, and everybody gets a share of the pie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you have to do it that way.
Yeah, if you have a company that big, I mean, it's
you have
only
to incentivize people.
Yeah.
You know who did that? Father Apartments, Trammell Crow. You know who he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Crow was the man. Okay, he was the guy, and I loved buying his properties. He built them like shit, but they made money. He knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, we have a big multifamily. I'm sure you're the Hines developer. That he was from Houston, and I think his estate.
Well, they're big. They're big and all. Huge in
everywhere.
office.
Yeah, yeah.
They're huge in office.
Yeah, and they did a lot of.
It's the father's Gerald and it's Junior.
The estate just came up for sale in the neighborhood.
Really?
In this neighborhood, yeah.
Best multifamily operator here in your area is Finger.
Yeah. Okay.
They're the best. They're the best. Absolutely the best. There's a couple guys that are okay. Like Monarch's okay. There's a couple guys around here that are okay. I like to think that my partner that runs all of our stuff, Ian, I like to think he's the best. He's tough as a motherfucker. He never gets out of budget. If there is any issue, he'll call me and I'll be like, Ian, are you calling me to go sailing? Because I don't want to know about this cost overrun. He's like, I'm calling to talk to you about the cost overrun. I'm like, I don't want to know. I trust you. We've been doing this forever. 2 decades. I'm fine.
So y'all's budgets are probably, well, number one, you're using the same thing everywhere, so it makes it a little easier to go bid a job.
So November we do our budgets. We finalize the budgets after Thanksgiving. They're ratified within each property in December, and then they're instituted in January. And they don't vary that much.
What is it usually like price per door, or is it price per square foot? What does it usually cost
Price
to
per square foot.
renovate, a building?
It depends. If it's an 80s C plus, which we typically don't buy anything that's less than a B, that's 30 years or newer. It's going to be one price. It depends on who actually took it over. It depends on if you're buying it direct from a lender and the lender actually had a good receiver in or a bad receiver because they wreck the deals. So then you've got to include that in your cost to bring the deals back up to the right price point.
Should somebody that's starting in multifamily is buying something over 30 years old, is that bad? That's
No,
just not
not
okay.
at all.
Okay. You just, that's
No,
just not part of your business plan now.
We've gotten away from that.
Okay.
We've gotten away from that. We stay away from we stay away from C properties. Okay, stay away from obviously D properties, which is public housing, HAP deals, things like that. Section 8 on a property. So the difference of Section 8 is the property has it on the deed, or you have the Section 8 certificate, which is what we teach our new, the voucher. We teach that to our new investors and how to use that to create steady income and leverage that up and to go into multifamily, because then you build it into the lease. And I send people to markets where you have a fair market value that's lower, and then you have a fair market rent that's higher. So you get that anomaly. And they're like this girl Lydia, she makes $1,000 a month on this little deal that she bought in St. Louis, and she's like, "I'm making $1,000 a month. It's crazy." And when they lock themselves out of their home, they pay me $150 to do it, and they take out the trash. And then I said, "Well, have you seen this course that we teach? It's called Rent to Own, and we use that as another concept. So you take a person that's a Section 8 voucher. They're typically gainfully employed. They're underwritten by the Section 8 authority, whatever's in that market. And then you give them the opportunity to own the house in 60 months. And that's the rent to own program. So they treat it as if it's their own home.
How do the numbers work out with that though, if they don't have?
So this is how you do it. You sell them the asset at the end of 60 months if they've made all 60 payments on time at 90 cents on the dollar. And you just built in their down payment. And during that period of time, you take them through the process of let's fix your credit. Let's get you on budgeting. Let's help you live within your means. And most of these people are single moms that have had multiple kids and by different fathers. And I don't say that as if I'm like a bigot. I say that because, quite frankly, these are the people what Section 8 is intended to help people. These are hardworking people. These are honest people. They want to take care of their kids, and they are amazing. And the government is actually giving them a helping hand versus someone who's trying to use it to get over.
How does the government underwrite that stuff? Do you know like what the requirements are? Do they give it Section 8 to people that make under 30,000 a year? Like what's the requirements for somebody to do
So it depends on each county is a little bit different. And they're all going to have a different debt to income ratio. They're also going to have a different credit score. So, but minimum credit on a lot of these people is somewhere in, so if you're on a buyer, you have a FICO score. Okay. Then if you're an apartment renter, you have a Credco score, which is a credit, just take off 10. So it's 300 to 850.
Okay.
Or 85, 300 versus it's 30 to 85 versus 300 to 850. I guess your FICO score can go up to 900. And you build out your profile based on that credit risk. So when you buy an apartment deal and you go in, you do your lease audit, you're going to know what the credit mean average is. So if you're going to put 10,000 a door into a place, you want to push the rents. You want to move them 8 cents a foot, 12 cents a foot, 15 cents a foot. And that's going to tell you whether with the right credit you'll be able to absorb it, and you'll be able to change the resident profile. And when you do that, it typically takes 2 full cycles. So that's 24 months. It takes 12 to do the renovation, expire the leases. Then so you'll have your new resident in there, and then move them to where you're actually going. Now, a distress deal is very different because it's mismanaged. You've got a receiver in. You're buying it for less. You're going to do a cost seg. You're going to do a RUBS program, which pushes the utilities onto the resident.
What is that?
RUBS stands for Resident Unit Billing System. So it's when you don't have separate water, you use a billing company, and they bill it out to the resident, and they collect it from the resident. You can do it with electronic metering on the water.
I was about to say, what about the electricity?
Do the same thing.
I was just thinking about it from a commercial standpoint too. Did they offer the same thing in commercial?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to have 500, residents.
No. But I'm just saying sometimes we split up light industrial to like more like
Bays.
business park type stuff, and instead
You
of
can
going to
do the
try to put
same
all
exact. You can
metering
do the
system.
same
Yeah.
exact thing.
Okay. That I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes
and you're just taking
makes it easier
You're
than
taking it
trying
off
to.
your plate.
Yeah.
Someone else is doing it. They get paid a small fee, and that's what they do. That's their business. And then if you bought a deal, it traded for X, and then you bought it down here, you're going to go in for a tax reduction immediately because it gets reassessed the day you close. So automatically, all those numbers fall to your net income, falls right to your net operating income. And what does that do? Pushes value. And it's so easy, it's stupid if you just learn how to do it.
You definitely get the size and scale with multifamily, and really a ton of commercial. I mean, that's what's so good about commercial, that the single family stuff, to try to scale it. That's where I got stuck, is when I tried to sell the 66 houses, it was kind of tough because somebody came in. I would try to sell it as a portfolio. We're like, oh, well, we'll take all the 3.2s, but we don't want any of these, townhomes. We don't want any of
That's
this.
the perfect size.
Yeah, and I didn't know. I didn't know when I was buying all of them, and so it was just hard to like split it all up and sell it. In a commercial building, it's a lot easier. You can just sell it based on income.
Well, you're selling it to an investor, and typically there's going to be more institutional money out there. If a deal is 200 units or bigger, typically it's going to be more of an astute institutional investor. And that's who you want to deal with.
What do people normally buy? What do investors like that normally buy apartments at? Like what cap rate? Like currently, if it, and I'm sure it depends on the city. And
it all depends. You have the social media syndicator, Grant Cardone, and what he does is just an abomination for the business because his unbridled greed has pushed him to a certain level. But some of the guys that are good, they'll buy at a 4 and they'll be able to push the value to a 7 cap. And they'll be able to push it even higher on a leveraged basis. But I won't look at a deal unless I can, out the door or on current, it's a 5 cap. But I'm not looking at those deals because our deals are much higher because we're buying deals that are distressed. So they've got a level of hair on them, and there's going to have to be a way to resolve the hair. But this is a business of doing that, and that's how you make your money.
That's how we buy.
Yeah,
I've never bought it like a 5 cap or a 6 cap or even a 7 cap. Like I just couldn't make the numbers work. I didn't really understand how to do it, especially on multifamily. I looked at it I'm like, I don't understand how these guys are making money by buying at a 5 cap. Like I just couldn't make. And maybe I just expect a lot more cash flow.
They're not.
Yeah, I want to push the value. Like I want to walk into it with a ton of value. I don't want to just push rents over time and try to squeeze out another 1 or 2% on the cap rate. Like we try to buy where we have huge margins, and then that way, if there is situations like rising interest rates, rising property tax, rising insurance, we can absorb it.
That's what's caused all this
we can absorb
issues to happen.
If you buy at a 5 cap and your interest rate doubles and your property insurance goes up like it has been, you're stuck. You're losing money.
If your interest rate doubles and it's a 5 cap, it's a 2.5 cap. If insurance goes up, it's a 2 cap.
And property tax in Texas and Florida for sure have been, increasing. So, it squeezes your margins. And if you buy at that margin, I just don't know how people are doing it. I mean, we have a couple storage units that we started converting Walmarts. Like we would buy the old Walmart, they'd build a super Walmart in town, and we converted them to indoor storage. And I mean, we killed it. We've done amazing deals, but there's a couple deals that we're not losing money, but it squeezed our margin just because the insurance has gotten so high. I mean, doubled, tripled and this is in Texas, where possibility for hurricanes, although the Walmart's never going anywhere. I don't know why hurricanes they would charge us that way.
So we call it Jewish lightning. So every time there's a storm, we've made a fortune. Even back when Hurricane Andrew hit in South Florida in 92, we were doing terrible on our apartment portfolio in this one area. We had about 1,500 units. And as soon as Andrew hit, we didn't get a lot of damage, and we filled right up. And then I went and took every penny I had, and I put 12 deals under contract. And that's where you make money. You make money, and you got to go in. You got to have enough confidence and enough balls to go in. And when you do that and you have a good deal, it doesn't matter if you don't have the money. You're going to find the money. If it's a good deal, you'll get it done.
I tell people that too. Because if you go to somebody, like yourself or whoever that recognizes it's a good deal, I mean, anybody's going to want to try to help you put it together. It's really amazing when you buy a commercial property how much value you can create, like in a short amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's millions and millions of dollars. And so that's definitely what, once I've done all those single family, definitely gave me the confidence to go buy these bigger deals, just like any other deal I would buy. But there's no way on a single family, you can make a couple $1,000,000 on one deal, in 8 months. It's just, it can't happen. And then the tax benefits is another reason that, it's hard to get that tax savings out of those small deals like that too. But I don't discourage people from buying them because it's probably why I'm where I'm at today, because I've had a ton of confidence, done
The
hundred,
first deal I did was a 3-family house.
yeah, done 100 deal. I've done hundreds of houses that I've flipped and buy and hold, and so now I'm not afraid to really do any kind of real estate deal. So I think that's where people just need to like probably get the confidence, because they see all these people online. It's like, oh, go into multifamily, go into buildings, go into this, and they're not wrong. It's just like, if you've never done anything before and you don't even understand it, you could get yourself in a bad situation if you buy the wrong deal when you don't know anything about multifamily or apartments, and you could lose a lot of money too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've lost money on deals.
I have to.
I've had my head cracked open, but I had enough staying power to get through it. So during the great financial crisis, we gave a few deals back. I bought this assemblage, or I created this assemblage, a block and a half across from the convention center in Miami Beach. I literally, the whole block and a half, I spent $12 million on it. And then we were going through the whole design phase. We're going to call it the Carly Beach Club.
Development.
I was gonna,
that's tough.
going to name it after my daughter, Carly Beach Club, because I always put the kids' names and stuff. And we started getting some loans called during the crisis. And I said to myself, okay, where can I cut here? I can't carry this. So I went to my lender and I said, look, I need your help. I owe you X, okay, on this assemblage. What would you like me to do? They're like, well, you can give us the deed back, okay, and we'll take it in the LLC name. You can change the LLC name so nobody knows it's attached to you. And I'm like, I don't care. Everybody knows. So the deal, we spent $12 million assembling it. The deal traded for $144 million.
After
7
it was
years,
developed.
7 years later, just the site, to a developer, Joe Chitrit. I don't know if you know, he used to own the Sears Tower in Chicago. I don't know. We've done $5 billion. He's probably done $30 billion. He's a big guy. And then it kills me because sometimes when I take Ziva to school, I drive by it, and he's using my exact plans. And the biggest claim for me was they filmed Bad Boys with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in our property, and it was boarded up, and they made it look so cool for the movie. It's crazy how they do this stuff.
I guess I know once you get over a certain size on commercial, usually when you have leverage, there's no personal guarantee, right?
No, it's all non-recourse.
Yeah.
It's non-recourse. Yeah. Yeah, for me, mentality has always been, and I learned that early on, your banker is the first person you call.
Yeah.
You've got to be completely transparent and candid with them, because they're going to help you.
But usually that non-recourse comes in, what, 50% equity maybe? You need...
No.
I don't know any banks.
We signed these loans with this bank. It's all non-recourse. And it's 100% financing.
Usually,
we're not going to screw them. So.
I know that, but
and they asked me, they said, what are you going to put into the property? I said, well, we're going to put X number in renovations, interior, X number, exterior. They said, would you put it in our bank and let us distribute it? I'm like, sure, I don't care. Just don't hold me up on my draws. And they said, what are you going to have for a cash reserve? I said, we're going to have $1 million cash reserve. Would you put it in our bank? I'm like, I don't care. So would you run the operating accounts? I said, well, we use Chase, but yeah, I don't care. So it's a Florida bank. They're a couple $1 billion bank, so it doesn't hurt me. So we will use Chase for our operating, and then it'll sweep into theirs.
The banks that I've, just when you go out and try to refinance deals, the local banks that I've talked to, it's usually like a 50% equity non-recourse that you need to get the non-recourse.
Deal with Bank OZK?
I don't know who it is.
Oh, they're crazy aggressive.
I'll have to get the contact.
Yeah, they're aggressive. They're aggressive.
Yeah, it's tough to get the non-recourse on. They want you to sign your life away on some of these commercial deals unless you have the equity to.
We get it in all of our stuff in Florida. We get it here. Maybe it's because
these are smaller deals too. I'm doing. I mean, they're $1 to $5 million deals, not.
No, the bigger the deal, the easier it is for it to get.
Yeah, and that's probably
the saying, right? If you owe a bank $10 million, you're a borrower. If you owe them 100, you're a partner. It's easier to borrow $100 million than it is to borrow 10, because they get hot and heavy when you borrow big numbers.
I'm sure I'll be there at some point.
I'm sure you're there.
Yeah, our deals are a little bit smaller. They're just not multifamily either. So, our sweet spot is like 1 to 5 million is the, usually the range that we buy in and we can create the most value. And that's just here in Texas, what we have available that we know how to make money on. Mm-hmm. Usually the light industrial stuff, you can make a bunch of money in that price range. And so we haven't got into the, 10, 20, $30 million deals as of yet, but probably happen at some point.
You will.
Yeah.
It just happens. It's just like that.
Oh, I know. And, I have the confidence to do it. We just haven't pulled the trigger on any yet. So
I went from buying my first deal to at 26 selling my first deal and walking out with a multi-billion-dollar check from the closing. And and money became just money. It just became a number.
I think everybody would say that at some point.
I love what I do, so it's not really work.
That's how I've always been too. But it does become numbers at some point. Like the numbers get bigger and bigger, but they're just.
Well, I happen to be an accountant, so it's all numbers.
Yeah, the numbers just get big, but then they're just all relative to what you're doing at the time. So the stuff that you thought was big back then, isn't big nowadays when you do deals at all. It's just numbers. It's like, deal's $100 million, but it's the same as doing a $2, $3, $4 million deal. Just the numbers are a little bit bigger.
And that's why I tell all the students, start here, build your confidence.
I would agree.
Feel good, and then go to here, and then the sky's the limit.
Do you have any students yet that have kind of started in the multifamily arena, or is everybody just starting out in the?
So I have one guy.
Okay.
He's a vet. His name's John Hero. He came to me when he was buying a deal in California, in Orange County. I'm like, bro, he's a $27 signed up for the course. I'm like, send me all the information. He was under contract. He had a fairly decent sized deposit. I'm like, all right, get the thing closed. You got to renovate it. You're going to be treading water. He did build some equity. And then he said, well, what do I do next? I said, go to Texas. So I sent him to Lubbock. He bought a deal there. And he just came to me, and he's buying 18 units there. And he's amazing. He does this amazing toy drive for all these ex-vets. All right. He is a guy that is just constantly doing things to help people. So I do my best to help him. So, yeah, he's the first one to scale into multifamily. Then I have 3 others that are
looking for deals.
Well, I have one that has a deal under contract. I don't think he's going to close it because there are some issues with the deal that we found out during due diligence. They gave him a phony rent roll.
That's a good topic. Especially when you're buying a property that already has tenants. Most of the time, when you are buying a property, they're selling it and they're trying to hide numbers. They don't really keep good records. What does somebody look for? What do they definitely need to request like actual bank statements and income verification, right? Because I've looked at deals too where they don't, the seller doesn't really keep good records. And that's how all those small deals are. And it's usually a mom and pop owner. What does somebody look for when they're buying their first deal
You've got to
in the due diligence process, outside of just the
you got to
inspection?
verify everything. You got to verify the taxes yourself. You have to verify the utilities yourself. You have to go out and get your own insurance quote. You've got to verify the income. And how do they verify that? You go and you do an audit of the lease, but then you go actually to the resident and you verify that that's the truth, and then you have them back it up by the bank deposit.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
The Mark Shapiro. If you guys want to follow me,
Yeah, and where else?
TikTok, Shapiro Capital. And then on YouTube, I know what YouTube is. It's Mark Shapiro 1887. Right? I nailed it.
What's the 1887 for?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no fucking idea. Well, 7 is God's number.
Okay.
And because I'm religious, so on the 7th day he rested. And everything that we do, the letter Chai, so it's 18. So I think that's how we got it, which is why our course was $27, $47. We sell our program for $2,997. So,
man, thanks for coming on. I love, talking to anybody about real estate, and trying to get as much information to people that don't know real estate or haven't done many deals, and kind of let them know it's possible, and, talk through ideas and, give inspiration to some people. And I like what you're doing with the school course too. That's really awesome.
we love it. We love it.
When does the book come out?
We sold the book and then we just took it back. We sold it to a major publisher and they shelved it. And then they asked us to rewrite it. And Bob's like, we're not rewriting the book. So we took it back. So Bob went to his agent and we're going to go to a smaller publisher. I think the thing will be out probably in the next 9 months. We were going to be interviewing. We were asked to do a film. So we're going to do an hour-long documentary by this filmmaker, Spencer Schiffman. And he's done some real movies, real guys. And we're going to do some crazy-ass shit this year.
That's awesome. What's the documentary about?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's about me? I think it's about me.
Okay.
About
well,
me.
look forward to the book. I'll check it out.
The grind.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Because we're junkyard dogs. You got to grind like a dog.
You have to.
Underdog mentality. So